everyone, welcome back to the channel. So this video is about A Christmas Carol, and we'll be looking specifically at how the ghost changed Scrooge's behaviour. We'll look at the different ghosts and the different things that each of them showed him, and how in the end everything added up to him changing his behaviour and eventually becoming a redeemed person. So a bit of context. The Victorian supernatural. So a lot of Victorians, although religion was extremely important during this era, many of them believed in and were fascinated by the supernatural. They enjoyed going to seances and hearing ghost stories. A seance is an event where they sit with a medium and they try and communicate with spirits from the other side. This was considered a bit of harmless fun where they could scare themselves and have a bit of an adrenaline rush, while also not doing anything that was considered too sinful. So ghost stories as a genre was the invention of the Victorians, and Dickens, as both a writer and an editor, helped make these stories popular. Although Dickens himself did not believe in ghosts, but knew many other people did, and used this to get his message across. His message was the message of charity and being a good Christian. So Marley's ghost is the first of the ghosts to appear. There are 4, including Marley. So Marley's ghost is wearing a heavy chain of cash boxes, keys, padlocks, ledgers, deeds, and heavy purses. So Marley wants Scrooge to not be greedy and tells him that he has a chance to avoid the same fate. So Marley suggests Scrooge is worse than him. Scrooge's chain was as heavy as Marley's 7 Christmas Eves ago. He tells Scrooge that 3 spirits will visit him, and that Scrooge starts his transformation when he sees Marley's ghost, as he is now experiencing new emotions such as fear. So Marley is important because even though most people tend to focus on the 3 Christmas spirits, he is the first ghost to come and give Scrooge the warning of what he should expect later on before the night ends. The ghost of Christmas past. So Scrooge is shown visions of his past, both good and bad. Some of the visions of his past make him feel nostalgic and gladness, and he feels pity when he sees himself in the schoolroom. Remember, he was sent away to a boarding school at a very young age, and his father didn't allow him to come home. The only time he was allowed to come home is when his sister asked his father to let him return. He says that his sister had a large heart. He's very close and very fond of his sister Fan, who, if you remember, is the mother of Fred, his nephew, which is why he treats Fred relatively well, because he remembers and misses his sister. So when he sees Belle's daughter, he regrets that he never had any children. Belle is Scrooge's former fiancée who left him when he chose money over her. He was so determined to not be poor and became greedy and miserly that she broke off the engagement and married somebody else. When Scrooge's sister Fan says that their father is much kinder, it foreshadows Scrooge's own transformation. The fact that we know his father changed in his old age is indicative that Scrooge has a chance to still redeem himself and change. So the ghost of Christmas past makes Scrooge see his past deeds, good and the bad again, and makes him realise where he went wrong in his decisions. The ghost of Christmas present. So this ghost focuses on teaching Scrooge about the Christmas spirit. Dickens was very religious and emphasised the duty of all Christians to be charitable, especially at this time of year when many people didn't have very much. A bit of contextual information again. Dickens was a very big advocate of educating the poor. He believed that the only way for poor people to no longer be poor was through education and training. Because if they were educated and knowledgeable, they could do more things and therefore earn more money than what they would be doing if they were just basic cleaners or street sweeps. So watching the Cratchit family, it's Christmas dinner, and them being happy, grateful, pleased with one another and content with the time. The Cratchit family were a microcosm of the poor within the story. So everything that they do is what people expect the poor people were doing in millions of other houses at the time. And the Cratchits are very poor and they don't have a lot of things. However, they're extremely grateful and happy, and they're very connected and close, which is something that Scrooge watches when he's with the Ghost of Christmas Present. So Scrooge is also made to see himself through other people's eyes. Some of the members of the Cratchit family do call Scrooge an ogre. Ignorance and want. Ignorance and want are represented by two small children, one a boy and one a girl. They are symbols of the problems caused by poverty in Victorian society. It was the fault of mankind that they exist. They're very pitiful looking children who are shown to Scrooge, who fears them a little bit when he first sees them. And they are not related to the Cratchits. I've heard this from one of my students before who thought they were children of the Cratchits. They're not. They're just a representation of ignorance and want, and they happen to be two small children. In 1834, something called the Poor Law was written. So that's the government reduced the amount of money given to the poor, as it was seen as making them less likely to work. This was also when they started doing poor houses. Rather than focusing on educating them, they decided to punish the poor. The Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. So the last ghost is completely silent, and when he appears, terrifies Scrooge. He feels horror and solemn dread. Scrooge is shown the consequences of his lonely life. We're shown the body of an unknown man in a room, plundered and bereft, unwatched, unwept, uncared for. So Dickens builds suspense in the novel by hinting that the dead man is Scrooge, although it also contains an element of dramatic irony, as the reader knows that it is Scrooge and are just waiting for him to realise it. Within the novel, Scrooge doesn't know that that person was himself. He just sees all the horrible things people say about him and do to his body, but he does not realise that it's actually himself. Tiny Tim's death and funeral, full of mourners and people who miss him, is a stark contrast to Scrooge's, where he had nobody and he was unwanted and unmourned. So seeing the future frightens Scrooge the most and convinces him to change. "Oh, tell me I may sponge away the writing on this stone." This is the importance of the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. It's showing him what will happen if he doesn't change. There are some things that are inevitable. We know that Scrooge will die because everybody does. However, the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come is trying to say if he changes everything he is doing now, his death will not be so pitiful. So how did ghosts change Scrooge's behaviour? Each ghost plays a role and are all linked together. So Marley's ghost is like a warning bell of what is to become of him in the afterlife. All the chains he had and all of the things he was going through as punishment is all the things that Scrooge will go through, but on a much larger scale. The Ghost of Christmas Past reminds Scrooge that he does have feelings. He made him remember all the feelings from his childhood of being abandoned. There was times when he felt happy when he was with his sister, and other things that made him feel nostalgic, remembering what he was like as a child. The Ghost of Christmas Present teaches him to empathise with others and about the Christmas spirit. And the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come makes him fearful of his possibly grim and unmourned end. So each ghost works together to lead Scrooge to the conclusion he needs to change. It only works if all the ghosts work together, so each one is interlinked. If the other ghosts had not appeared, or the other spirits had not appeared, then what he sees with one would not be as effective if he hadn't seen and met all four ghosts, including Marley's. So here's a bit of context that you can use for the conclusion as well. So Dickens believed that Christianity should be about practical kindness and willingness to help others. He was not a fan of organized religion in which you could only be a good Christian if you went to church and donated to the church. He believed that your deeds and actions led you to being a better Christian. Scrooge's redemption mimics Dickens' belief in that he is redeemed because he changed the way he behaves towards other people. So, was this video useful? Follow me on my social media, share, like and subscribe, and if you have any questions or requests, leave a comment. I do respond to all of them and I do appreciate each one, and it does help me know which things are useful and which things you guys need. So don't be afraid to leave a comment, and I'll see you next time.